Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so my goal is to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am thrilled to welcome my very special guest to the show today, Heather Dugan. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm very pleased to talk with you.
Oh, I'm really excited to dive into a conversation, but I want to tell our global listening audience all about you. Heather Dugan is the author of Date Like a Grown-Up, which was a finalist for the 2015 USA Book Award and the 2015 Indie Next Generation Book Awards in self-help and relationships. She's an advice columnist, a feature writer, speaker and discussion facilitator, and radio and TV guest for topics relating to dating, relationship, and connection. She's the founder of Cabernet Coaches, and I'm so excited about this, Heather, a social connection group for women. And her next book, Finding Your Cabernet Coaches, Building Face-to-Face Relationships in a Virtual World, is due out next year and touts high-impact face-to-face friendship as a means of social change. And Heather's background also includes professional voice acting and on-camera work. You're a woman after my own heart, my dear, but let's dive in. Let's dive in. I am especially interested in Cabernet Coaches, so tell me the story behind that.
Oh, certainly. This group was actually a response to my own isolation. I had to solve it. I'm a self-employed single mom, and not a something that puts you out in public all the time.
Right.
And as I was writing Date Like a Grown-Up, one of the big takeaways was that many adults lack the foundational friendships that we need to make good decisions in all areas of our lives. And so I had to be proactive about creating more of that in my own life. And Cabernet Coaches, well, the name, quite frankly, was a nice alliterative name to give the group that we had been meeting as a group. And I started out just by emailing women that I knew. And once one of them indicated it was a recurring calendar entry for her, I realized we are a group and that many, many women needed it. So anyhow, it's made a big difference here in Columbus, and I sure hope that we can take this to other communities as well.
Well, I love the word community, and I think we can take such individual responsibility for growing and cultivating our own ecosystems for professional, personal integration. So cheers to you. And the book is forthcoming very soon. So tell me about Finding Your Cabernet Coaches.
Yes. Well, so many women have told me how the group changed their lives, and I hear this all the time, and it sounds remarkable, but it's true because personal isolation impacts your life in so many negative ways, and we are built innately. We have a need for connection.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it's easier for most adult women to find an online date than a friend in her own neighborhood. We've grown disconnected. It's widespread. Women feel like it's their fault. The way back isn't clear at this point. So my book illuminates kind of this growing issue of personal isolation and equips women to exchange the clickable connections we have for real-time face-to-face friendships. It covers how we got here, that it's not just you, has a lot of research and the personal stories of many of the women I interviewed. It provides it has a pathway. It has answers, affirmation, hopefully a lot of hope. What it really struck me is so many women are waiting for someone to reach out to them.
Right.
We're learning how to do that here in Columbus, and as a group, it's a lot easier to take that step out. I'm really hoping that this will enable women in other locations to do the same kinds of things, both personally and in their communities.
Well, Heather, I applaud you because we are in a wonderfully technological world where we've got devices and digital connections at our fingertips. But I think sometimes we need to go back to basics and have those face-to-face conversations in person. And that's exactly what you're encouraging us to do.
True. The technology can be an asset, or it can, a tool, or it can really be a barrier for people. And the fact is, I tied the situation that we've got now of widespread isolation to technology, to transitions, and kind of this treadmill lifestyle that all of the above has led us into. And I should first really define loneliness. It's a
Yeah.
subjective word. It's a subjective condition. You can be in a bunch of people. You can be the most connected person in the world, but if you don't feel that personal tie with people, then you're a very lonely person and you will not have a positive life experience, which impacts everything.
Yeah.
1 in 3 of us in the U.S. over age 45 report personal loneliness, and that's a huge number. The American Sociological Review did a study where 1 in 4 indicated they had nobody they could confide their personal things with. And when you took out family, less than half of them could. So, the technology part of the equation is obvious. In fact, Baylor just came out with a second study on it. I wrote an article last year on phone phubbing. I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but it's snubbing with your phone. And they did a study last year that showed more than half of the respondents considered the phone to be significant competition in their romantic relationships.
Wow.
So we're not using technology the way we need to. We have more of collections on social media than connections. And, well, there are so many, the transition thing that enters into it. Most of us are kind of one transition away from a temporary isolation situation. And if we don't know how to fix that, it can turn chronic, and it's self-perpetuating, so you really get stuck.
Well, and as you discuss in the book, there's potential long-term impact on families, communities, careers. Talk a little bit about that, but then help us understand, how can we begin to build connection? Because you're so proactive in the book about giving strategies and action steps.
Right. Well, yeah, the long-term stresses, I look at, we have got basically, our relational infrastructure is fractured. It's broken. We're seeing the impact in, addiction and prison situations. It's across the board, families. But it's a long-term stress. When you're isolated and lonely, it is worse for you than obesity or smoking. It has impacts on, of course, your mental health. It's been tied to diseases linked to our immune system and cardiovascular. It affects decision-making and our cognitive processing. And obviously, when you're not feeling very good about yourself and when you're alone, you don't have other input coming in. I talk later, and I don't think you've read these chapters, but I get into the hateful heckler, which is that little voice that sometimes women have in their head. That if you don't have somebody else telling you differently and hear the wrong messages, that's what you begin to believe. And it makes it harder to reach out. So obviously this impacts the way what our children see and how good parents are able to parent. Productivity goes down. You're not likely to volunteer if you're not feeling like a strong, confident woman. So the impact is horrible. And I think it's important that we begin to fix some of these things now, because looking forward, this is a root issue to so many of our society problems. It's kind of what's behind a lot of our big issues at this point. I'm sorry, you did ask what we can begin to do.
Please tell us.
Certainly. Well, that treadmill lifestyle leaves a lot of us in a state of distraction. We have this opportunity clutter of these fluid and disorganized options and this urgency. Heaven help you if you walk down a cereal aisle. It's not just the internet. And we tend to postpone our pleasures. We value momentum over the moment we're in. So a lot of it is about slowing it down. And, the first step I say is awareness, just being aware that, yes, you have this need, but also the women around you in similar little bubbles, perhaps, have the exact same need. Yeah. You're not strange to feel this way. And people respond positively because they relate to it. And then remaining alert to those opportunities. We can't just turn it on and off. You can't just say, when I go to this networking event, I'm going to be aware of other people and start looking for friendships. It's a serendipitous thing when you click with somebody. When you say you have to be alert at all times. And then being available, because we can get very rigid in our adult lives. We know what works, and it can be difficult to trade our schedule for something that's not quite so convenient, but could ultimately be a life-changing connection for us.
Yeah, what I'm hearing too, Heather, is the beautiful permission that you're giving women and men to prioritize relationships in their lives as a way to feel connected and authentic and not only celebrate who you are, but who you are within a collective community. So thank you for that. I think that's very liberating to so many listeners to know that they have a lot of power and control in this.
Yeah, and we have to own it. We've been efficient about the wrong things, and conversation has kind of become a luxury,
Yeah.
and we need to go back to that.
Yeah. So walk me through, how does Cabernet Coach Group work? How would one get started? Because this is scalable. This is something you help other people take advantage of.
I really do. And, that's one of the big goals for this book is to help women begin to feel enabled to do so. It began very casually, but we have kind of turned into a more kind of have a more cohesive plan, I would say, at this point. But it's basically, it's all inclusive. We do have a regular calendar date every Wednesday, so women always know it's there. And anybody who is female is invited. So that's a pretty simple, basic setup. We rotate around, and women have been very good about taking on some of the responsibilities now as I've grown. I'm really diving into the end of my last chapters here of this book. There's a lot of word of mouth, Facebook. Women are wonderful evangelists for this group because they've seen the impact. And we have little cards even that we hand out now so that people can give them the direct information to find us. We're on Facebook. A lot of people find us there. And I think the regular Wednesday is a big deal. And then the fact that people are able to take this outside the group. We have a private group as well. And women form these new friendships. Basically, the Wednesday group is like a basket, kind of an access point for women to find each other. And then they use our private group to plan other activities. Women go hiking, biking, do yoga, concerts. It's really a widespread activity group at this point.
What I love too, I'm hearing that you're giving women permission and reason and incentive to have fun, right? Because we're so busy, we're so stressed, we're so overscheduled in our lives. This is prioritizing joy, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is. And women are finding access to new activities that maybe sounded interesting, but they wouldn't necessarily have had the courage to go jump in all by themselves. And it grows your confidence. You do begin to feel capable of doing more on your own. But you also realize the joy of sharing that with other people. So I think people are more aware of the women that would enjoy it as they're out and about now, too. We're not, people aren't so shy about, reaching out to a woman at the gym or at the grocery store and, just simply saying, hey, I'm in this really great group. I don't know where you are in your life, but I have a lot of really neat women friends, and we welcome everybody. So it's, as one woman had indicated, we did a nice video discussion earlier in the year, and one of the women said the nice thing about it is you don't have to know when you bring a woman that you will be a great friend with her. You simply are bringing her where she will find great friends.
Lovely.
You may click with her, but the click thing is a personal thing. It may or may not happen, but we have many wonderful friends within the group and many really develop deeper connections with certain people.
Well, and it takes the pressure off, right? So organic connections happen, but you don't have to feel like you are pressured to make this perfect friendship, right? So I love that. It's very user-friendly.
Yes. And the chances are so good that you will click with people because we have such a wide variety. It's all ages, all stages. I think our youngest are in their 30s, and we have women up into their 70s, and it's married, single, ones that have children, have never had children. Career women, there's some stay-at-home moms. It's really a wide variety.
That is great. So, Heather, you and I share Indiana University as our alma mater. Tell me about how it might be that you could help connect the IU Global Network with Cabaret Coaches.
With Cabernet Coaches? Yeah, I would love to see some of the alumni get involved with beginning these groups in other cities. I've talked to women, goodness. A reporter in New York interviewed me earlier in the year for an article, and she was saying, she's a career woman, very accomplished, and, it's a bad situation there trying to reach out to other people when you're in a busy city.
Yeah.
And I hear the same thing from, women in smaller towns in Ohio. We're all over the place, but we all share this common need. And IU alumni are all over the place. So
true.
I think that this is indeed a very scalable thing, and I'm so happy to help people start this kind of thing in their communities. I believe it's that important. I think it's a life-changing thing for the women that are in it. And I believe that it is community changing in the long term.
Well, that is great. Well, we will look to you as an ambassador, not only with Cabernet coaching, but also to think about how we can rally the IU Global Alumni Network. Heather, tell us how we can follow you online and buy your books. I know many people listening will want to reach back out after the show.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, Date Like a Grown-Up is on Amazon. That's probably the easiest place to find it. And the full title is Date Like a Grown-Up, Anecdotes, Admissions of Guilt, and Advice Between Friends. And the cover does have my picture on it, so it's easy to find. Cabernet Coaches, Finding Your Cabernet Coaches, Building Face-to-Face Friendships in a Virtual World, hopefully will come out this next year. And I will keep people informed. I am on Facebook. I have a website, heatherdugan.com. There is also a website for Cabernet Coaches, and Cabernet Coaches also are on Facebook. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere you care to look. But I would love to talk with anybody that's interested.
Oh, that's great. Heather, thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is infectious. You're doing great work. Community building is serious business and just makes the world a better place. And I thank you for your leadership in that realm. And thanks for your time on the show today.
Thank you, Caroline. I really enjoyed it.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. Career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. The show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.